good whatever to you. Whenever you're watching this episode of a movie making nerd deep dive book review, that's a little unwieldy, but then again, so is this book. I am your host, Dylan, here with Tommy the Spurg Snake. How's your day
Hello.
going so far?
Not bad. I just got done doing a little podcast with Annie O'Ryan over on her channel. Talked about Disco Elysium. It was very much in contrast to this. The writing for that game is extremely well, and it branches out. I don't know if you are a fan of the choose your own adventure style of books.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
very much like that with gambling, because there's a lot of dice rolling to pass certain checks and stuff. So it
And
gives
you
you
can
that
check
little
out
bit of
that
rush.
full review over on What's This Game? Disco Elysium. Annie has definitely chosen some fun games. I was very happy to do Prey. Like, that one is a work of art.
Yeah.
It kind of foregoes a final boss to be a better narrative.
I agree, 100%. That was the first one we all did together. I love that game. I'm
It's
very
something
happy
we-
to be back to playing video games.
Yeah, something we don't love, something with a bad story. All over on the other side of the coin is the subject for the day. Oof, a movie making nerd. I'm kind of happy that I was a little ill and had to take a week off. Thanks to all the folks who reached out to me who were like, I was looking forward to this. It really
I saw a
helps.
few.
Yeah, the motivation helps. This is killing my creative spirit. I'm going to have to find something to help get me in the creative spirit again, because this actually is doing the opposite, I imagine, of what James Rolfe wanted it to do. It's
I was going to say, he says right in the beginning, he wants to inspire people. He says it again in this chapter. He's just trying to inspire and help people be themselves.
I
That's his big
guess
thing.
it's kind of inspiring in the fact that this unaware goof is doing it. He did it to such an amazing degree as well. And
That's it right there. He's wildly popular. And in this chapter, he does mention, how popular he is. More pretentious fart smelling from him.
he needed to revise this. He is assassinating his own character, and it didn't need to be that way. A simple going over and like, you sound really full of yourself, which does come up pretty quick. So let's dive into where we left off.
Chapter 4J, Meeting
boy.
Mrs.
The mom wife, as you're calling it. But he does love being a dad. In this chapter, there's a lot of talking to the reader like children. I forgot to pull his wedding photo. They both look very plain. Usually it's a very glamorous photo, but she's a hippie girl, so she's fine.
They're in front of the Rocky statue. Hold on, do I got that book open? The big
The
film.
Philadelphia
Okay.
wedding.
Yeah. That's where he starts out talking about, again, being forlorn with love.
It's kind of reminded
here's
me.
my first note, though, on this channel, real quick. Chronological was a choice. He made a conscious choice, because we were talking about editing just a minute ago. He made a conscious choice to write this in this order. I was a child. Here's my college. Blah 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 blah.
And that's the chapter titles. We're in 20s. And the first chapter was childhood. We didn't get to high school until chapter 2, like 50, 70 pages in.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We're 219 pages in. Chapter 5 starts on 220. A movie. He's finally 5 chapters in, 2/3 of the way into the book. He's finally starting to talk about the movie.
James Rolfe would disagree with you. He's been talking about all the 100 plus movies that he's made. Doesn't help his likability. This chapter where he talks about his heart, it sounded like Chris Chan to me. Like his heart power was at 20%. And before he could focus on anything, he needed to bring his heart power up closer to 100%. Here's the first clip kind of illustrating that.
I needed to find a new girlfriend, so I took a break from pursuing my career to pursue happiness instead.
It's still your fantasy
I'm sorry.
career, Jimmy James. He's got his editing job, or he's just about to get his editing job at this point, an offshoot of what he wants to do for a living, but it's still your dream career, not your career at this point, Jimmy Bames.
Right. No, and he has done very little in the way of college, like doing college-related work. Yeah, there he is, out in front of the rock. He's having a rocky time right from day one.
Happiest day of his life there. And I always do get a little giggle out of wedding photos where they look so plain, but she's a hippie gal, so all that glamour stuff that's not in her wheelhouse.
The way he described his wife sounded like, I don't know if you've seen, like, before she was on X-Files, Dana Scully had like a nose ring and was very much like a Gen X looking girl. And that's how he describes seeing April for the first time.
He does give
her eyes.
an overly detailed explanation of online dating as if he's talking to children. Right. And it was Kyle Justin that pushed him into it. James was just a mopey McMoperson. Kyle Justin is the architect of James's success. He pushes him to get this, and then coming up in the next chapter, he pushes him to get onto an independent film as a director of photography.
Correct. And I feel extra bad for saying his name backwards the whole time. Kyle Justin was the ultimate wingman for James. Like
for life, not just...
He was so...
Not just for he was his very patient. Love life, just life, period.
Right. One of the few people trying to push him out of his comfort zone into stuff that he likes, not even just... Kyle is giving him a more of a be about it than talk about it attitude, which I think something that James suffers from is like he likes to talk about the thing. Yeah, making a movie would be great because that's greater than actually making a movie. So
the current one that we love goofing on is the band, of course. They had all these music video concept ideas before they had a single note written. I think that's still a thing. That's still the most funniest because it's the current one.
They just played a show, Rex Viper, and I'm pretty sure it was the same set of songs again, and they are a year behind. They said they had more videos coming. They announced 3 of them and then never made them. And this is late stage COVID, so there's not a real excuse anymore. It's like, where are those videos at, dude? Some of the truthers are into it.
Fucking Time, man. I was happy to see that James's arch nemesis Time does make an appearance in this chapter as well. We'll be getting to that. That's a few sub chapters away.
Chapter 4K, Job Hunt.
So the job hunt, we get introduced to this character that I wish we would have gotten a lot more of. This crazy boss who he's editing safety videos for and is anything but. Actually, he's coming. I think we just get a little bit of a preview towards the new boss. He talks about the DP job, the director of photography job that Kyle Justin helped him get. Never mentioned the movie name, so I guess it wasn't as important as Jimmy Rolfe versus the Punching Bag.
2002. No. Whatever year it was.
That bugs the shit out of me. He does it all the time. 2006. In the book, I guess
he does it to movies that aren't his.
Citizen Kane, 1936. Yeah. You know what's really funny?
Sorry.
I didn't realize how much that original King Kong meant to him. In my original script for Hindsight Rewrite, which I'm completely redoing, I talk about how King Kong had a better understanding of green screen than James did in his Angry Video Game Nerd movie. So that just tickled me as much as the original King Kong is mentioned and an inspiration to him. And they did green screen so much better than he did in his own 2011 movie, 13, whatever the fuck it was.
Right, I still haven't watched it, and I've seen the bare minimals of clips, and one of them was a lot of that. There was like cutting from one thing to a green screen of something that shouldn't have been green screened. They were inside a warehouse or something.
Because they ran out of time. The one of
Yeah,
the
it was,
fucking worst offenses are people running on a green screen. Like the kaiju is behind them, and they're trying to run in place without looking like they're
oh
running in
no,
place. It's and he just ran out of fucking
oh
time.
no.
So that's the best that he was able to do.
Well, and yeah, I think this chapter sets up that failure pretty well. Why I think it took such a toll, or why everybody, not just me, thinks the movie broke him. Yeah, that right there, that's from the movie. That big old cuck face right down there. It's. He says it. I don't want to get too far ahead, but he says later that something was about, like, he took criticism about his acting from
He puts
somebody, and was
himself
like, well, yeah,
he puts himself over, and luckily he does have fun on film sets. Here's an example of
yes.
him having fun on that independent movie film set.
And we played some jokes on the main director, who had the habit of repeating lots of film terms that were new to him, like calling the tripod sticks. So we decided to make up fake terms to see if he'd use them, like stifle. It meant absolutely nothing. He asked the director, "You want James to go stifle over there?" And I choked back my laughter. I almost ruined the whole gag.
He has fun.
Now,
Funny gags.
yeah, I chuckled. I did chuckle at that because that's something I would like to do to some, especially if you know the guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Just kind
yeah,
of
fake terms,
overstating
good
which is it's something fun on set, and there's something that just don't translate. And to me, that didn't really translate.
I get you. Well, because he did. I don't think he gave a good example. He needed to go into it a little more, like a bit. That could have been. This is real quick. He keeps comparing his life to movies as well. Like, everything that happens is very comparable to a film he has seen, and I'm only making that mention for foreshadowing.
This film, there is kind of a disaster in that they've got some scenes with some guns, so they just go out into public without permits with these guns. James kind of turns into like a parent teacher to this point to the reader, which just sounds silly.
If you have guns in a movie, never film them in public without first getting permission and going through all the proper ordinances. Definitely look into it.
It's that definitely look into it that made me giggle. It sounds like this is an instruction manual of how to make independent. Look into it. Whoa, was I supposed to be taking notes on how to make these independent films the whole time? Shit.
Thanks, Eddie Bravo. I'll look into it. Flat Earth, Ninth Planet, all that stuff. Look into it. No. He also flips out at the end of this chapter too, because there was something about a car. I can't remember. My notes are not great. I think it's when the car almost hit him after he had.
That's coming up, not this chapter. Okay. I definitely have it listed when that car wreck happens.
Oh.
In this chapter, he's talking about networking with
networking
quotations. That drives me up a wall. It's exactly what you were doing. You were networking. You weren't networking.
Right. That's like me going to a strip club to do networking. You know what I mean? I get. He spells it out for you. He tells you. I met this guy who met, like it all goes back to Justin too. But that how he got this job was because Justin got him a job with a friend, and then he made friends with that guy, and that guy got him another job.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it was a paying job, but it was a job working. Like, I'm trying to do that here locally, and no one's going to get fucking paid. It's on the weekend when we can actually do this stuff. So to me, that was like James' one of his first actual movie experiences, even though it's a peer who's on his level. He's working with other people.
Right.
Not in charge. He gets to his directing style a little bit later. Well, more on that later. He introduces a few things this chapter, and he's like, more on that later. And that kind of...
Yeah, he does that twice.
It was a job...
Yeah.
And here's one of those examples.
It was a job editing corporate videos and was my first time getting paid to make videos of any kind. I'm of course grateful for the employment experience, But the boss, as we soon found out, was extremely difficult to work with. More on that soon.
What are you preparing? You're always preparing. Just go.
He did it
That's,
several
yeah.
times in a row, which made me think of this Spaceball clip. He threatens us with more details on his honeymoon. I don't think he ever got around
Right.
to it. But
Well, not
thanks.
this chapter. Yeah, no, that's what it was. It was like his wedding night or something. He's like, well, more on that to come. And I'm like, I really don't care. And the L section, this is where he gets this job editing corporate videos.
You were right.
Corporate
Before we get
Commando?
into L, you were right in my notes. At the end of K, he gets a car, and he makes himself sound like a man-child again, because his parents
Yes.
have to take him by the hand to the car
First
dealership
car.
to get his very first car, which I guess I misunderstood his first car chapter earlier, because I thought he already got that. He's just been
Yeah.
sharing, but still didn't have the motivation to stop sharing until they were like, come on, James, let's go to the dealership.
Well, see, that's what I think. James is very much like that. If it ain't broke, I ain't doing shit about it. You know, that's it. It's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to stay. It's how this book came out, I'm pretty sure.
He the way his mind worked, like he
Very
had a
rigid.
certain right, I don't know, but he was using his parents' shit all the time. He was still making movies. We'll get to that later. A movie that took him an entire year to make in his parents' basement with actual actors who were strangers to him. So it seems to be a disconnect of what's mine is mine and what's my parents is ours, still deep into his 20s.
Yep. Yeah, he's definitely into that. And real
So,
quick
yeah,
to
you were
address
right.
the chat.
That car crash.
If
did
you
happen.
stare into, yes. That's fair enough. If you stare into Bimmy's mouth for too long, it's like staring in the abyss. It'll start to stare back.
It's a very good Adult Swim bumper from 10 years ago, looking into Bimmy's mouth and the acid trip that
Finding
he
a
would
party.
experience.
Chapter 4L, Corporate
yeah, here we go.
Commando.
So this boss, I think James really should have spent a long time focusing on this area of his life. This boss that he has is quite the character and could have taken up a lot more of the book with his madness. We get a lot of vaguisms of the madman this guy was, but only a few stories.
I get a little bit of like a Spacely Sprocket vibe. Like he just likes to yell all the time. Like, Jetson, get in here! And he just starts screaming at people just to yell. James does make a good point to say that this boss is an angry guy. He's yelling on the phone. He's yelling at employees. He's yelling in meetings.
He's not a good guy at heart. Here's James describing it.
He proved to be the harshest, angriest person I've ever met. He had a striking resemblance to Donald Trump and the same bad temper and narcissistic personality. This was long before I ever imagined such a horrible man could become the president.
And once I'm swept into office, I'll sell our children's organs to zoos for meat, and I'll go into people's houses at night and wreck up the place.
Wreck up the place. They got that on tape.
To that, I say, James, you know nothing of Nixon. If you didn't know such an evil man could inhabit the White House.
It feels very forced. Like, I'm not a huge political guy. I really couldn't care less for what's going on federally. It seems like that was put in there, much like that 9/11 thing. Like, he's just trying to, oh, God, Bimmy. He's not. He's a white man for Kamala Harris. Go look those guys up. 'Cause you know what I mean? It's like they're just weirdos all over the place. And there's nothing else that he even mentions in any type of political aspect in the rest of the book. He just happened to be writing this in 2016 when Donald Trump got elected. It's like, oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah, he veered into
Okay.
that very unnecessarily Trump. And actually, I don't have many other notes for this chapter. I guess he gets into his madness on another one of the chapters.
Well, all right. Well, I need your opinion, though, because we do hear about his boss, and I want to know, do you think that guy has bipolar? It's the type 1 that's like the more mania, depressive, like the bigger yo-yo, or is it type 2 that's the bigger yo-yo?
Type
this-
1 is the more crazy, higher highs and lower lows. Bipolar
That-
2, hypomania. I want some hypomania. You get some shit done on hypomania without finding a new hooker girlfriend and moving her in on a whim, because that's something a
Right.
full on
That's-
mania person might do.
Yes, and okay, that answers some other questions about friends from the past. And he starts like complaining the boss man's bullying him, and James is editing forklift safety videos. Like he makes a point to say that he's doing all these weird, like he hated doing it, but like he started doing the narration for it too. I want to
Because there was
find
no
one of
script.
these videos that he did. Right.
The boss was very haphazard, and the little bit we got of him, he deserved to be in more of this book and really hash out some of the. When everyone walked out on him, coming up in a few subchapters, James didn't say what that was, just that he did something egregious, and he walked out with everyone else, and then quit the next day, coming up in a few subchapters.
Right. Well, that's why I got it like a generic. The boss man is just kind of bullying everybody, and I think everybody got fed up. I want to find his training videos. Oh, there was one video where the boss man was like pushing him around, like, no, just use wide shots. And they had like 5 cameras all pointing at the front of a truck from wide shots. And James made a joke about you can't shoot a good movie with a sniper scope. And that I also kind of got a little chuckle. We took a break from the nerd last week, so I was much more amenable to this half a chapter.
Yeah, my sickness was good for my mental health. I physically was just very fatigued last week. And thank you, Brain, for shutting down production for a week so I could get back into this.
Yeah, it was me earlier this week. I was just in a fog. If you guys go back and watch me play Family Feud, I'm just like, oh, what is wrong with me? The antibiotics are kicking my butt. I also made a comment, go back to porn, and I can't remember why I wrote that down.
I
put
don't
3
have
exclamations
anything.
after it.
I don't have anything related to porn. You needed the setup as well. For me
Yeah,
to
I
possibly get
fucking
that.
missed it, man. Yes. Oh, so he does go into why he's quitting in the next part, right? So we're done with part L. This goes up
Part
to
L, we're not to quitting yet, because he does a little
okay.
bit of a side section. What are you preparing to quit for? Just go, like they said on Spaceballs.
Yes.
He takes a detour to the zombie movie.
That's right. Okay.
Oops.
Yeah, it does. It just jumps right to zombie movie. Idea mashup of Clerks and Night of the Living Dead. So again, not really an original idea, but a combination of things he has already seen.
Chapter 4M, Zombie Fun.
So this zombie fun, I got the urge to watch this. Of all the movies he's talked about, this one lasted for a fucking year. 16 minutes, 17 minutes long. Took him an entire year to make this. And his parents, as I mentioned earlier, were skittish to let strangers. These were actual actors, and he didn't pay him anything. So to me, you get what you pay for. The leading man, he had something, but I believe he wasn't directed well. The supporting man, it was actually a good concept that went nowhere. In this zombie movie, these people are employed by the graveyard to kill the zombies each night. So I'm like,
Oh, that's already a movie.
That's a little. Does that exist where they're employed by the graveyard?
Well, it's one guy, but it's Cemetery Man in English. Delamore. He they call them returners, and they climb out of the grave, and it's just him with a revolver. Oh man, you don't know? I'm gonna have to show you that movie.
I'm
It's-
unaware. If James was aware of that, he lifted that and then did nothing with the
No, I don't think
concept.
he-
It's just
Yeah.
16 minutes of zombie killing. He does really put himself over for this
Yeah.
style where you can only, it's black and white except for the blood. To me, he's too full
right.
of himself when he talks about this. Did I pull the clip? Well, let's get to the directing style.
Working with
yes.
professional actors helped me discover my true directing style. My style is to let them improvise. Even if everything is scripted, I trust an actor's judgment to change a line. They may often come up with something more natural on the spot that's better than whatever I wrote.
So, after years of just allowing his friends to do whatever they want with little control, Bames discovers his directing style is just to allow the actors to do whatever they want with little control.
Exactly. Now he's just letting them improvise and giving them guidelines. He does say, though, I won't let them change the intent. They can change the line, but they can't change the intent of the scene. I definitely wrote director douche because that's exactly who this guy. He's I can't imagine. And he also
he would let you do whatever the fuck you'd want as an actor. He would really let you run away with it before he notices it is all fucked up, as seen in real life.
And early in this part of this chapter, we keep calling them subchapters. I got to remember to say subchapter. He kind of sort of does that thing again where he's like, "Oh, my parents got separated," but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. That was another one. His parents got divorced, but I'll tell you later.
Yeah, he does kind of mention that this was the last film I made for an entire year in my parents' house, and to me,
that's right.
This film leading up to their divorce might have been antagonizing the marriage a bit. That's what I've been. There's little clues that James caused this rift in his parents by being a problem child and just being a pain in the ass.
I like your idea more than me just thinking he's daddy's little guy, like a little clone of his dad kind of thing. I think his dad, that's his only son, and that's why he's such like an overbearing dad, because he had an overbearing dad. But it was normal to him. Because I'm gonna put it this way, because he goes on about stuff. His wife is definitely running the house. There is no way he knows how much money is coming in or going out. He has no idea. It's
even
just
without
all
reading
there.
this book, he's pretty much said, I gave her the pants. She let me wear the pants for my movie, and then she didn't even ask for them after that. I just folded the pants up and said, "Here you go, April. You help me make my angry video game nerd movie. These are yours."
Right.
And some people prefer that. He doesn't have to worry himself with those big decisions.
Exactly.
The one with the pants makes those big decisions.
It's like those people that buy the same shirt and pants, so that way when they go to the closet, they just wear the same thing every day. They don't have to think about what kind of clothes they're wearing. They just put them on. I'm pretty sure April lays out his clothes for him in the morning. Here, this is what you're going to wear today. Now go watch the kids.
Thanks for being a great dad. Glad you got that whole directing fantasy out of your head. Even though her forward does talk about what a prolific and successful director he is. Does she know? Now I'm wondering. Does she know what a bumblefuck he is with making movies, or does she believe it?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. Does she know she's married to Don Knotts is what I'm imagining. Like, you would have to know because of the behavior, right? But again, this is James' description of himself. He's a low-key personality kind of person. He's very low-key. I want to punch him. In the book, he talks about the zombie film that he was doing. He puts out an ad. He gets all these actors to come. April paints a poster for the movie. That's mentioned in the print, but it's not mentioned in the audiobook. He gave her credit in the written book, but in the audiobook, she didn't get credit for painting the poster.
It's very curious, these small little differences that he
Weird,
has.
right?
Same with his cats. There was something I was going to pull. The way it's written and it's in the book was funny, but he says it a little different in the audio. I was like, oh, that's...
Yeah, when the cat's on his lap, right?
The way that he worded it, I was like, oh, this sets me up for a joke. And then the way he actually read it, I was like, that doesn't set me up for the joke that I wanted to do. This chapter, it's still all about his movie. He talks about how it's like Sin City.
The same year, 2005, I was stunned to see the movie Sin City did the same thing. Although The Deader the Better is the only film I've seen where a zombie gets its head shoved up its ass.
making himself laugh there.
Yeah, he chuckled.
So to me, it's kind of like Pleasantville was the first one to do that black and white with color things. When I looked it up, I think that was 1998. And then, yeah, James had parallel thinking. If he would just reword this to be like, I had parallel thinking with the great filmmaker Robert Rodriguez to do this thing with color. And you can see how it's low budget. Like there's little circles that he's able to key in and just color. So it's not just the blood. It's a little bit of like the shirt or the flesh or the ground nearby. He was working with what he's got, but it looked good. I will absolutely 100% give him that. It looked very good.
Well, I think that's why one of the more recent nerd videos, the glitch gremlin returns, it got panned because the green screen chroma was so bad. It was like all over everything. And James edited it himself this time. He said that he did it behind the scenes.
The driving cat with
yes,
the green screen just engulfing everyone.
Everything, right? Yes. It's and the glitch gremlin is green himself. So when he had to color the gremlin back in, that's what bled all over the rest of the shot. Like if he would be on my shoulder, but my whole shoulder would be bleeding green too because he had to superimpose. It's just awful. So he didn't really.
I've never worked with green screens. That's probably it would look like mid '80s Saturday Night Live the way I do it. But James has been doing green screen for 20 fucking years.
That's what I mean.
For
like
it to bleed that badly on the glitch gremlin.
There you go.
Get it out eventually. Very surprising to me.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
Doesn't speak well of his filmmaking abilities.
Chapter 4N, The Nerd Rises.
Yes, finally. But he does mention the divorce at the end of the last chapter. Very typical. The kids are out of the house. Dad goes his way. Mom goes her way. But he is an emotional child, always. He's a 40-year-old emotional child. He talks about his emotions and how he has a hard time controlling them.
It was very quick. My parents threw me a premiere, and then a few months later, they were divorced.
Yep, pretty much that. It was like he
move
just
on. Painful memory. No talkie. You got me talking about my painful memory of being expelled. That's the only painful thing you're getting from this book. La 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 la.
Yeah, I also think that's why he glossed over that angry boss. I think that angry boss probably traumatized him a little bit. That was the car
anytime
accident,
anyone yelled at him, it was traumatizing to him.
That's what,
being under the payroll of a madman. And I think we've got more clips of him. Well, before we have more clips of him, James he doesn't talk about festivals all that often. And this really made me giggle, his experience with the film festival circuit.
After spending an entire year on The Deader the Better, I started blasting out a bunch of sillier films like the animated spoof Wizard of Oz 3, Dorothy Goes to Hell, 2006. It had no rhyme or reason. I just let loose. While working under that crazy boss, I had to do these side projects to keep myself sane. One day, Mike showed me this new thing called YouTube. Prior to this, I used to submit my films to film festivals. They all had the same generic criteria, looking for filmmakers with unique visions. I'd mail them a VHS tape and never get a response, not even feedback. You paid a non-refundable entry fee whether or not you got accepted. Such a waste, a blind gamble.
I think he was getting had.
Doesn't it say something? So you believe that they were just, and that is definitely a possibility, that someone is just putting it in the back of the magazines, hey, film festival, $20 entry.
$30,
then,
right, exactly. You collect them all and don't do shit.
That's
what went through my brain. That's not good.
To me, I thought it the other way, that
you're right.
He's just continually not being picked up for these festivals. That if they, it would actually be much better if they are scams, because him striking out every single time is statistically almost impossible. That's an anomaly for him to not be accepted to one.
Right. I mean, you got to get some low tier community college. He did a community college film festival. I made 2 notes on this chapter. Finally, we are starting to hear more about the nerd stuff. I made a note that he curated his own garbage. And he also because he just mentioned YouTube. Mike Matei finally shows him YouTube.
Mike Matei is passionately sharing around the Nerd Trilogy at this point. It's YouTube and MySpace those were the places to go at the time, and Mike really, or Matei rather, so as not to confuse him with Mike D. Thanks. I didn't write the commenter's name down on the last video. They mentioned he keeps saying Matei because of neighbor nerd Mike D.
Mike D. Okay, that makes sense.
And I actually didn't pick up on that. Mike D hasn't been mentioned in quite a while in this book.
And yeah, that's what I think. I don't think he even is going to mention him for the rest of the book. Maybe because he is doing neighbor nerds, but I don't know if it was around this time.
It might be in the last chapter, but as far as we know, Mike D doesn't have anything to do for quite a while.
Really. Yeah, exactly.
Karate Kid was supposed to be the finale, and Mike just kept bringing him over shitty NES games, and he's like, no, you're not done with the trilogy.
James himself says that Mike said, I'm going to make you famous. And I believe it. I believe that Mike seen that there was something here. There's that this short form 10-15 minute angry review and him doing it, because you see right there, Cuckfacey, he when James opens his eyes, he pulls a good face. He's, and you believe him. And it hit right because it was a bunch of 20-year-olds watching at the time. We were all his age with our own internet or some access to the internet by the time YouTube was coming around.
Of course, we're still several years out from YouTube paying their creators, and you can pay us too. We're monetized over here. Become a member. I'm going to have a members-only show with slow adult speed dating, and super chats, super tips are enacted. And so there's that business. Back to the book. I noticed Carl Hamburger does it up front in a big flag wavy, and then moves on with his day. So back to the book. I begged for less than 1 minute, so don't DSP Aaron M. Holt me yet. Don't
you're not even close.
I haven't been fully turned into a beggar, but I am infected with the goal, so it will happen one of these days.
You're going to wake up. PayPal, Venmo, Streamlabs, StreamYards.
But Screw Attack is where James is getting paid.
Yes.
He starts making a couple of bucks from Screw Attack. And into, I didn't label this clip, but I have it in my notes to play after I mentioned Screw Attack.
Lots of people didn't understand that the nerd was a character. They took it at face value. I thought it needed an explanation, but then realized it was the best possible thing I could have done as it was. I created a convincing character. I fooled them. Others understood it and were overjoyed that someone else agreed with them about these games.
I'm gonna get that free membership.
Thank you, Reedy, for dropping one free membership. And check out, I'm aiming for Friday this week to have our members only show, maybe a bit earlier in the day, the old time slot. So James's instincts were initially to explain the nerd is a character because people disagreeing with him hurt his feelings. No, don't be mad at me, James. Be mad at this fictional character. Laugh at him, or be mad at not me, James Rolfe, the character here.
We'll find out later that he does that there is early on evidence of the dissonance between who the nerd character is and who James Rolfe is, and how.
I think I know which one you're talking about, and I definitely clipped that one. We'll get to that one soon.
All my life.
Right at the end of the last chapter, when he's talking about Mike Matei and YouTube, he says that he's the voice of a generation. He earnestly said that he is the voice of a generation. I guess. I mean, I'm 43. He's 44. There was Kurt Cobain. There's Metallica. There's who else is voices of Prince? Kinda, sorta. It's a little earlier, but you know what I mean. Like there's so many creative people who have done a whole lot more by 40 than he has. And you just played that clip. He sounds reluctant to be the nerd still. Even like he's like, oh, I get to do this. Like he's trying to convince himself a little bit. Like it's, like, oh, this is the thing I do. It's like I'm so he's trying to be humble and say that he knows where he is, but it falls.
But he needed some more revisions to come off humble, because he does come off like an egomaniac.
That's in some aspects, that's what's really strange. And others couldn't care less about what's going on around him.
All my life, I wanted to entertain people. I wanted to have fans to make me complete. It was slowly dawning on me that I was succeeding.
Sounds so fucking weird to me, of wanting fans. Artists want people to find their art who will appreciate it. Wanting fans, that's going along with, you needed to edit this book. You needed to revise it because you sound like a douchebag, rather than people were finding my art. I wanted fans.
I was just talking to Annie earlier, like outside of the podcast. There's a couple of people in my friends list on Discord that are deleted user now. Like they just deleted their account, and one of them was of a guy. That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted, was to make fans and followers. And I kept telling him, I was like, dude, you can't do that. You're going to start attracting all this trouble. And of course he did. And now he's gone. He just disappeared from the internet. So yeah, hearing James say that and then wind up with it, the rarity that is, he does kind of know he's lucky, but I still think deep down he's like, this was my destiny. Like he's fulfilling quota in his mind. Like, I don't know how to say it.
This filmmaker destiny, this movie making nerd who was always meant to be, with that raw natural talent of his.
Right. And in this chapter, he does it again. We're on O, right? Are we on O?
I was just holding O over the play, so.
Chapter 4-0, okay. Quitting the job.
I quit. 4-0. There's that many. We're still in chapter 4.
And I miscounted. I thought we got up to S. We got up to T on this one. That's
yeah, I saw that.
That's way too many for sub chapters, I believe. But he chose to be like, well, I'll write about my 20s.
That's 20 sub chapters. I just did the math. It's 20 sub. Yes. Okay. Let's proceed from here, I suppose. Yeah, work sucks.
James, he's working his 9 to 5 job editing video, and then 5 to midnight he's editing angry video game nerds videos, or doing gameplay. And April gets the weekends. James walked on sorry. I shouldn't be getting bored this this quickly into it, but we are talking about James here, who's been boring us for 200 pages. James walked out on an unspecified, sketchy request from his boss. Others quit. James quit the next morning and gave his 2 weeks notice. He was a good boy. I can't do it anymore, boss. Oh, I didn't even write anything about James almost getting hit by the truck. That was some fun of the, when the boss actually let him get some dynamic angles. He was like, what would be great? He fucking smashes the truck right next to James.
And yeah, James had a flip out and was screaming with the boss, and the boss apologized because he said that wasn't safe. So but I'm guessing both of them are complete emotional wrecks. The guy he was working with and James, I don't know how they stayed together that long, except that it was dysfunctional, and dysfunctional makes functional.
Paid for apartment. That'll
that's
fucking
right
help
too.
you out a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Initially, I was going to admonish James for not having enough money saved up, because he was like, after this job, I only have a month saved up. I'm like, you don't pay rent. What the fuck? But maybe he was spending a pretty penny on the nerd videos to only have. That is a possibility. That the reason he hadn't saved anything, that bugs the shit out of me. I've had multiple people in my life that are getting a nice free ride with no rent, and they're always fucking broke no matter what.
Such is life, I suppose. Everybody knows these guys.
It doesn't matter how much their rent is or isn't. They're gonna be fucking broke at the end of the month.
That's-
It's fucking annoying.
Yes, there's a lot of people who are just like, you gotta get rid of it, otherwise you're gonna lose it one way or another. There's like just a spending paranoia, I suppose. So yeah, and his wife pushes him a little bit. He's coming home, he's not happy. He barely sees her like on the weekends because he's doing 12-hour days mostly. He called off of work to do nerd stuff because that was more important to him. There was a bit of that shift there where he's like, you know what, pay isn't equal to my happiness. My happiness is more important. I'm going to work on my thing.
He was ready to hang it up at episode 20 of The Nerd, and it sounded like soon after he lucked into getting a higher contract to where he didn't even really... Oh, yeah, wedding video. There was a little interim. That was what... a wedding video editor he became after this, and that was pay per gig rather than per week, so that's unfortunate pay-wise.
Right. He wasn't... I don't think he was making very much money, but he did enjoy editing the wedding videos more than the tow truck videos, or forklift videos.
Because he had direction. The Corporate Commando, we didn't mention his boss's name. He never named him. He just called him Corporate Commando. It was chaos, and it's not too hard to edit a wedding video. You kind of know what the customer wants. But having no information on the safety videos, I can understand how that's fucking frustrating.
Yeah, like how are you supposed to present this? Especially because he doesn't have any knowledge prior to. And then I guess he was taking liberties and putting in explosions and stuff and doing silly narrations. And
the boss really liked that. Adding explosions and adding a skull with bloody eyes to someone getting electrocuted. Good old Home Alone 2 style.
So, like, he describes it more like a movie. He relates it to another movie. And he goes in and he quits. And then he says the boss nearly cries and begs him to stay. I'm begging you to stay. I need your forklift movies. And it came off like very stereotypical abuser behavior. Like, he's just screaming and yelling at you and degrading you the whole time. And you're like, I gotta go. He's like, but I love you, James. I love you. Stay with me.
And then turns into a little putty tat at that point.
Right.
Of like, you leaving me? Oh, no. I do believe that was factual. I don't think he's embellishing there.
Yeah,
this book could have used some embellishing, for fuck's sake. For the reader's sake.
But yeah, that's his I quit, and he's now on to full-time nerding and side gigging.
Yeah, side gigging with the wedding videos.
Chapter 4P, Self-Employed Nerd, Part 1.
I think that's just the title for the rest of these subchapters. Self-Employed Nerd, Part Blank.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
The self-employed actually refers to the wedding videos because he's now an independent contractor. No longer working. He makes a big deal out of this. No longer with housing paid for, no health insurance. I had to get my own health insurance.
Yeah, he mentioned
just be
health
an irresponsible
insurance.
20-year-old. Go without health insurance for a few years. What are the chances?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I know I didn't have health insurance until I was in my 30s. Like, and now I'm glad I have it. Shortly after we get done here, I'm probably going to go to the hospital and have them patch up my neck. I got
fuck yeah, insurance.
Yep. I'm happy for that. I went to an urgent care. Oof, it's awful. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. He again, I wrote down having a rocky time because he's the independent nerd now. And I think he goes into his wedding video.
Having a rocky
stories.
time, just like that wedding photo. Adrian.
Yep. And this is one I mentioned earlier. This is the section of the chapter where we see some not so angry video game nerd appearances.
We're getting there. James goes overboard with exclamations at this point about his wedding in 2007. It was a very special day.
I gotta stop doing that myself. I do that in chat, like in
It seems
YouTube
like
chat.
a good idea at the time, but then you go back and realize that you're being a little bit too much with the explanation points.
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
James talks about the video editing and his first cat with April.
He was just a little kitten at the time. He wasn't that social with strangers, but with April and I, he was always super friendly and cuddly. Loved to headbutt us as he purrs and sings, meow, meow,
I had to get just the meow, too.
meow.
I played this probably for 5 minutes straight, laughing like an idiot.
Meow.
He put it in the book. I don't know why he did that.
He
That goes on
really
the
got
board.
into detail of their first cute kitty and didn't even...
Anytime-
Boomy or Boo or Boo Boo or Boom Boom
Boom
Boom
Boom.
Blat Blat. Like his name was Boomy. Of course you have nicknames for him. You don't need to say all this extra shit.
Yeah, he was. That's what I was wondering, because he does. He goes on a tangent about the cat for no good reason.
Meow.
It takes me to
he
the
says-
Sopranos episode with Visiting Day. Do you remember when Adriana got Chris to sign that musical band that was just incredibly average?
Meow.
Adriana was off to the side, really into it during that chorus. Dirt, 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 dirt.
Meow.
Oh, good God. That's so good. Oh, boy.
It was he put this in his book. He put
Yeah,
an impression of his cat Meow and then read it for his book.
That's so weird, right? Like, I can't remember if it was written out either. I don't think Meow was written out. I'm like trying to look, but
Okay, I think this.
oh, there's a
might be-
picture of the kitty, Yeti, the white fluffy cat. Oh,
Yeah, the kitty cat from their second kitty cat who's still living. Two more clips till we get to what you were speaking of. Oh, right here is where he mentions the 20 nerd videos.
I didn't have the
Yes, okay,
slightest
20 of them.
clue that this was something that could become a job. That wasn't the reason I started making the nerd videos anyway. It was just for fun. I had already made close to 20 episodes, all for free, but it got to the point where I no longer had time to do it.
Say the line, Bart.
I just don't have the time.
I knew there was something special about that clip. James talks about time a bit more in this chapter than he was, and that just really made me happy.
I didn't have the...
Let me
Well,
go back.
that's the thing.
I want to go back to the meow again.
Meow.
Yes, when he was editing the videos for Captain Commando, that's when he started to realize he can't fit everything in one day. He can't. He is just doing too much. That was the first time he realized no time. And he said 20 of them. I had 20 of them.
20 videos. This MTV, bring them out to Los Angeles. This was fascinating, and what we've been alluding to for a little bit.
I
Oh,
couldn't
yes,
believe they wanted to fly me all the way across the country just to appear in a quick video. It was exciting. We shot the video inside an MTV building with a whole camera crew and even makeup artists to make us look nice. Star treatment. I appeared...
A little pause before that. Have you not been using makeup, James? It's a whole lighting thing. How could you not be using makeup on your movies? I guess, I don't know. That just frustrates the shit out of me. You had to have been using makeup. People are very shiny. They get sweaty under those lights. And I don't...
That's why...
That just bugged the fuck out of me that he's getting the star treatment with makeup that every single movie does, even low budget ones.
He should know better from the Looney Tunes anyway. He's watched all those cartoons where somebody says makeup, and then they come in with the big thing and whap them in the face and all the... Yeah, that's to take the shine off.
That bugged me
How does he
much
not know
more
that?
than it should have, because it's just basic filmmaking, I guess. Even when I made my sitcom pilot for no money whatsoever, we still got some makeup for the fucking lighting.
Exactly,
Grease,
especially if you got a greasy actor like me. Look at that. It'll all start shining. You
Just a
hide it
little
in
bit of
the
sweat. That's all it takes to just... ring.
I appeared as the nerd the first time I ever attempted to play the character outside of the regular videos. It didn't work. I think they expected me to be hyped up and full of energy,
Duh.
the comedy dial turned on. I tried, but it felt awkward. That's when I realized the nerd needs to be scripted or playing a video game to have something to be mad at. I can't just become the character on cue. I can't be angry for no reason. At least Kyle was there to play his guitar to add humor.
Once again, Kyle Justin swooping in and saving the day from the way he words this bugs the shit out of me. James Rolfe is terrible off the cuff, not the nerd character. The nerd character, if it was being portrayed by someone who was off the cuff, would be fantastic. We have the podcast. Drop the needle on any one of James Rolfe's podcasts. Well, just start from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
I don't have a glass
James
to
off the
bite.
cuff.
We were talking about him in this a little bit in the sippy cup conspiracy, that he might have a sippy cup around because he bites glasses, like when he's drinking beer. Like the
Yes,
pint glass, he'll bite
as
it.
seen by someone on the Cinemaster Truth subreddit, claimed to
There's a
be
few photos. Yeah.
claimed to know him as a teenager and said he still had the sippy cup. Can't confirm nor deny that, but makes me giggle, it being true.
So I looked into like what that means, like biting on the glass as you drink. It's a trick to drink quicker. It knocks the foam down as it touches your teeth, and I think that he's using it as a chugging kind of trick. But for me, that still seems like it's painful. I got sensitive teeth. Cold beer would just give me a headache.
Oh yeah, the beer I don't want touching my teeth. That's too cold. I could drop another Simpsons clip right here of the sody hurting my teeth.
Chapter 4Q, Self-Employed Nerd, Part 2.
Yep, I think
More
that's I think that's all we got for the rest of this subchapter. Self-employed nerd. James likens.
Oh, I was going to say, he did mention meeting a fan. Like somebody came up to him, "Hey man, it's you," blah, blah, blah. Like recognized him in the street. And he goes on to talk about how happy he is to be the right amount of famous. Like,
And he does have that
what I'm
right. When I was attempting to be an actor, that guy type of famous is the perfect amount of famous, where you don't know if you saw me falling on a banana peel on Two Broke Girls last week, or if we were on the same in the same marching band. That's the perfect type where you don't get bombarded. But he did feature a little bit of Beatlemania out there in Los Angeles.
did you clip it?
What did I clip from this chapter? Q1, famous. Let's see.
Once you're famous, you can't be unfamous.
Famous.
That one made me giggle. Really? You're famous for life?
Once you're famous, you can't be unfamous.
I bet you in another 10 years, no. But yeah, there you go. That's so sad, man. Virgil's a good dude. Or was, I should say. Rest in peace, Virgil.
Yeah, Virgil's not with us anymore, and he certainly got unfamous. He was somewhat famous to a group of people for about 4, 5, 6 years, and then here he is at a convention. The best part about Lonely Virgil's banner there, it says Ted DiBiase and Virgil. And he never got a new one. He just folds up
just
when
folded it.
Ted DiBiase doesn't join him, which was a lot of the time.
That's great. It says "and Virgil, WWE superstar." I would have not caught the "and" percent if you didn't mention it. That's great.
There was I think it's still up, the lonelyvirgil.com, and you see and Virgil over and over again.
Yeah, I wrote that the nerd is bigger than Jesus, because he does say it's like being in the Beatles, man. Like he compares the nerd to the Beatles. And again, that voice of a generation thing. He thinks he's reaching a lot of people and changing
I wasn't
lives.
sure if I wrote that in my notes that he experienced Beatlemania or if he actually mentioned that. Because that's how I describe him in the movie. It's Beatlemania when you actually watch the movie. He's the most famous person on Earth.
Right. No, you mentioned that he's getting chased by a crowd of people, which would never ever happen, except at a convention.
Yeah, at a meet and greet, he's actually chased by fans. He's shuttled out to the van, and then let's follow him. James likens the lines of fans at conventions to the happy versions of lines of customers at Shitmart.
Yes, like they're happy.
He's got an irrational hate of working at Shitmart. It is.
I don't know what his
way
deal
more than
is.
It should be.
Yeah, he's bringing it up a lot. Like he can't move past that. He doesn't work there anymore. He mentions it like 4 times. Shitmart. And I want to know if it's Walmart or Kmart. I can't be sure. I'm going to guess Kmart, though.
It's a this or that. I'm thinking Kmart. I don't know why, but it's definitely a this or a that with Kmart or Walmart.
All I know is with episode 20, I got paid for making the nerd for the first time ever. It wasn't much at first. I still had to keep my regular wedding job. The good thing, I was making money for my own art.
Good for him. And that's all I have for chapter Q. Anything else before we move on to R?
Beeple manages his money. That's where I think he mentions or he said something that I gleaned that from. Like he just gives her all the money and she takes care of the things.
The old Hulk Hogan strategy. That was quite funny in his divorce when the Mrs. Hogan was like, I'm sure her lawyer had ramped her all up. There is hidden money. And Hulk's like, if it's hidden, you hid it. You got the paycheck.
Yeah, no kidding, right? He's like, I gave it all to you.
Chapter 4R, Self-Employed Nerd, Part 3.
Even more nerd, yay.
Thanks for these very inspired titles. Self-Employed Nerd, again. Tax Talk with James. This one starts out very fascinating. It is that time of year. So if you would like to hear Tax Talk with James, the beginning of chapter 4R in this book, James efficiently makes 2 AVGN videos per month as per his contract.
Yep.
During these early days...
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off with the clip.
No, that's all right. I think we're going to get right where we're going. We're going there.
During these early days, I was making 2 nerd episodes per month, not counting my wedding videos and other web content, and I never fell short, never missed a deadline, never. I must have learned that kind of discipline in college. I was all about deadlines and working around the clock.
Because I have to be done at 5:40 right now.
He used to be able to work around the clock. He no longer has that convenience, of course. But there was a time when he could work anytime around the clock.
Yeah, this is where he starts talking about no time a lot. Like he's just not managing it well. I feel like this is where he starts to grow a little resentful of being pigeonholed as the nerd.
And it's understanding like it's a self-created prison where he's not getting paid as much as he would want. But it's Hackride is called his place in Venice, Golden Handcuffs. It's a beautiful place, and because of rent control, he can't fucking go anywhere.
Oh, no shit. That makes sense.
And that's why I won't go back, because I don't have a place rent controlled on the west side of California. That's
no kidding.
Ooh, fuck. If you would have got in when Venice was a piece of shit, good on you, because it's no longer got those piece of shit prices.
Did you ever see, speaking of MTV, he did go to MTV. MTV made a movie called Joe's Apartment with...
I love Joe's Apartment. It was actually just bumpers in between. Actually, I mentioned that recently.
That's right.
Of Joe playing drums just for no reason. Hey, you know anyone that plays drums? Yeah, I do. He doesn't know. He's just like, I've seen people play drums. They give you no illusion to him not being able to play drums. Just he wants to be social. I can play drums. And it was Jerry O'Connell. Absolutely fun movie. Can we talk about that for the rest of the time?
He gets off the bus, like he goes from Iowa to New York, and is talking to somebody and he's like, yeah, I was looking for something rent controlled. And literally everybody in the diner just starts laughing at him because it's like such a fallacy. You're not going to find anything like that. And then eventually he does. I don't want to spoil the movie, but he moves in with his grandma.
And that's how you get them, is by someone just passing it on to
heirloom.
you.
Right.
But James doesn't talk about that boring rent-controlled stuff here. He talks about boring taxes. Average episodes of The Nerd take 40 hours to review, some up to 80 hours, and his favorites, Rob the Robot and Mega Man, take 120, 130 hours. So it's funny how he's like, college got me prepared for this. Creative people just need a deadline, and that's just part of college. That's the same thing with me. If I'm writing anything, any type of story, if there's no deadline, I'm fucked forever having it done. It's just never done.
Right. Yeah, I understand that wholeheartedly. Yep. Because at least then you have to reach your goal by a certain time. Otherwise, it's indefinite procrastination, which is really easy.
James,
and does he install cookies? Did he install cookies somewhere in this chapter?
I don't think I have anything about cookies. He says he loves collaborating with other creators, but doesn't do it so much anymore because of his mortal enemy, time. Thank you, Alex. Shitmart is Kmart. Kevin wears James's old red vest from Kmart in the Glitch Glimmin' Frums. Okay. We're talking about Glitch, and I still can't say Glitch Gremlin very well.
Glitch Gremlin, yes. That's
thank you, Alex.
Tongue twister of a title.
So on that 50-50 bet, we both would have made money on it being Kmart.
Nice. Yeah, I would. That's what I Walmart would have been a little too obvious. Plus the timing.
James also mentions that his setup expands. He used to be a corner of a room.
Oh yes.
Now he's the whole basement. And then at some point, wifey with the pants is going to say, yeah, back to the corner, James. Back to the corner of the garage. We still need to fit one car in there while you still pay for the house with this exact thing we're pushing off to the side.
For the first time, I had 4 walls dedicated to the nerd instead of just one corner. I could now turn the camera around 360 degrees. But wealth doesn't equal health.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Hell yeah, Johnny Cochran. Shit.
Health don't
Hello,
equal
Mr.
wealth.
Z.
If you must, it's such a funny little random rhyme that I thought of Johnny Cochran now. Wealth do not equal health.
Don't worry, man. It happened to me the other day. I was walking around the house going, "Ain't we lucky we got 'em?" Just that part. That's it. Just looped in my brain. And then eventually I would get to good times, but I just like that. It just something sets you off and you just go with it.
Just such a random line, which makes sense when you're working yourself that tired just all the way around the clock, even after 5:40. Your body and your immune system, they don't like that much work. They like rest. So it's
and he did mention that earlier, that he was bloodshot eyes, bags under his eyes, and I do think him getting married to April really did help him. He needs somebody who's like that. You're going in this direction, keep going that way. It's not you don't have to stay working for somebody you hate. Like, she was supporting him, so that's fair enough. But I do,
as much as B Pearl is getting a lot of flack, it was her at this time pushing him. No, don't stop making these videos. People love them. You are making some kind of money. And James talks about his second kitty. So he unfortunately didn't include a meow like earlier.
Being famous also didn't mean my social life got any better. It actually meant the opposite. I was always stuck inside the house working on videos, so I didn't keep in touch with my close friends as often. A lot of the feelings of loneliness from high school returned. I was always alone in my room, and it made me sad again. The very thing that had brought me joy, making videos, was now bringing me isolation. Yeah, there's side effects to success.
I want to punch this guy.
there's certainly a way he could say that without being punchable. I agree. These side effects to success. Urgh.
I literally wrote down ball washing himself because that's kind of what he's doing.
You've got to be very flexible. Thank you, Tukey. You got to be very flexible to get that ball washing in. Even Lanny Poffo was not able to get his balls into his mouth as such.
And he goes on about the internet. I guess he used to read comments when he was first doing this. Like he would go back and try to respond to YouTube comments and get feedback from people around the internet. And he basically goes on to talk about the internet. Like he doesn't go on the internet anymore because of the internet of the asshole-ish variety. That's why he won't go do social media or anything.
Yeah, we are starting to bleed over into chapter 4S.
Chapter 4S, self-employed nerd part.
And I didn't even care enough to clip that properly. Close enough. You get the fucking idea, right? And I started off with a very profound thoughts on the internet. You could get Jack Handy. This is such deep thoughts.
It seems like the internet is good and bad.
I did get ahead. Yeah. That's I lost it. I lost it at that. It seems good and bad. Well, no shit, dummy.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, we're moving into subsection S.
Is good and bad. Gee willikers, thank you for that hot take. Could you please cool it down for us the next time that the internet has both positives and negatives?
And see, and what's weird about that is he just was talking about his cats and how one of them was black and the other one was white, and they make sort of a yin-yang when they're sleeping in the basket. I have a picture of two cats I used to have. One's gray, one's beige, doing the same thing because that's how cats sleep. It's like, why did it? You know that there needs to be a balance, and you see it. You talked about it about your cats. They're showing it to you, and he still can't. He can't manage his time, and he's very happy. Like
you
trying
said the
to get
secret
away
word. Time. Whoa.
Yeah. So this is what
subsection S. It just shows what a poor idea it was arranging the book. Like maybe 6-8 subsections, but yeah, subsection 19 we are currently on.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's I want to know how much, like, did somebody say to him, hey, you should do it this way? And he was like, no, chronological, 48 subsections per chapter. We got this.
I'm very curious of the, what the Screenwave guys, I think it was Justin who was the proofreader. His wife saw it. I'm really curious. What did you say? Did you all say it's good, James?
Yeah, I know Krusty Justy was definitely a publisher, or helped get it published, and he had to do some type of, proofreading or editing. I really don't. I just there you go. And
to me, it's such a collection of ideas. I would maybe like not even a book. This is your thoughts. You've got the skeleton. This is a format. You've got a format for how to write your book, and you didn't actually write stories. You just stuck to the format way too much.
Yeah, it's just anecdote after anecdote, and they're not as profound as he thinks they are when he wrote them in his 20s.
Are you sure his social media time isn't profound? I kind of forget exactly what he says here, but after his internet thoughts, let's see if this is profound. It's social media thoughts.
I do have myself to blame for not keeping in touch with lots of my old friends because I just don't make any time for social media. I can't afford to sacrifice the amount of time it takes.
Dude, well, hold on. I love that you put that. More time. I can't afford any more time for anybody else. This is the only person on earth that does not know how to make time. But I wanted to point out the vocal continuity from the book to that right there. The audio, his pitch is the same. I don't have the time to be doing any of these things. Like he was perfect for those forklift videos because he's so monotone. Like I can't take it serious.
Yeah, let's check that out again. See if now that you pointed that out, if his tone is exactly the same in the book and the clip.
I do have myself to blame for not keeping in touch with lots of my old friends because I just don't make any time for social media. I can't afford to sacrifice the amount of time it takes.
That
It's
was
the
the
same fucking-
exact. You could cut
It's
that.
a flat line, dude.
Wow.
Oh, that was another note. There was he a few subsections back. He goes on about how he can't tell you how happy he is to be the angry video game nerd. Like it's that I get to be this reconciliation in his mind, and it was ADR'd really bad. It was like I could tell like it was cut, and then they added this line to make him sound a little less pompous.
I don't think
sound more thankful.
I don't think he never sounds good when he responds to criticisms, and he does that here in this chapter too.
No matter what kind of video I do, it always has critics. He's not angry enough, or he's too angry. So, which is it? Do I dial down or bring it up? The nerd doesn't sound genuine lately. Now the anger is forced. What does that mean?
I'm glad you clipped that. Yes, that's it right there. He did the same thing with Kyle Justin. You know, just Kyle told him to be confident. Just be confident. And he's like, okay, I'm confident. Now what? You know, like, no, dude, you seem a little bit like you're pushing out your acting. It doesn't seem natural. It's forced.
That's how you get hemorrhoids, is by forcing it out. You're going to get oral hemorrhoids if you keep forcing it out like that.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And
he does mention...
That's about all I have for this chapter.
Board James, I think, is at the end of this chapter. He talks how that he's very proud of Board James because it's not the nerd, and he got to be more creative and put a narrative with it. The nerd videos are A, B, C, D. Game's bad, I react, we blow up the game, end of skit, you know, like close out. With Board James, he was making some sort of horror narrative too with Mr. Bucket. Like you put your balls in my mouth, Mr. Bucket. Oh God, somebody's gonna clip that shit. And
that was
like,
what Mr. Bucket said, but he doesn't elaborate on it much. You're talking about it having the horror aspects and the Mr. Bucket episode. No, he didn't elaborate. Just the fact that he liked Board James most out of everything. And I actually didn't get into that. I have seen some people really putting that over as actually some fun content that he put out with the when it got really eerie. But James does not elaborate on it. It's just a thing that exists that he's proud of.
Well, and that's the thing. He made it sound like he was more proud of it than the nerd because he got to be more creative. But then we just move on. Because it just happens right at the end of that chapter. So I'm drunk.
Just a quick mention, and that's all we got. And I don't even have a clip from this last one.
Chapter 4T, Return to the Dragon.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what this is. For those who didn't see episode 1, James starts off this book with a dream sequence about a dragon from his childhood park. So... The return to the dragon.
Yes, that's what started this whole book out. Was him going to the park, seeing the dragon, and then having nightmares of it sneaking up on him.
A very sexual dragon sneaking up in him. Jesus.
That's what I get for trying to do two things at once. It's really he was having a midlife crisis in his early 30s, I think. Because he doesn't exactly say when this took place, I don't think. But he's like, I got to go back and see it.
We're just assuming sometime in his 20s or early 30s that he wants to go and revisit the dragon from his childhood, and the Parks Department tore it down. He got there just in time on the last day for them to for them to see and film a little bit with this dragon. I think it might be over on the Cinemassacre clips, the same place that I found the Deader the Better. We
really?
didn't mention that. His zombie movie was called Deader the Better, and he mentioned it a whole shitload of times in this chapter. And a decent concept.
There's
What
my
was
dragon.
the movie that you said again that the Deader the Better sound like, with the graveyard employing?
Cemetery Man,
Cemetery Man. I'm gonna have to check
which
out.
came out in '94. I'm trying. Let me look up what's the actor's name. Rupert Everett. That's who's in it.
The Deader
It's
the
like
Better,
Rupert
as I
Everett.
mentioned, is a good-looking movie for what he was attempting to do. It looks a shitload better than the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. That looks like fucking garbage. So
Wow.
I've got to put over his movie that should have. I think it should have taken a half a year with just having weekends. It seems a bit much that
sorry.
it took an entire year.
I haven't seen it yet. That's not so. I can't make too much judgment on it.
For
But
some
this
reason,
last,
I got the urge to watch it. I think I brought up the Snicks flicks, but I never
Okay.
actually watched them. That was something I looked into without looking. Let's give this. There it is, Cemetery Man.
can't show that part.
Let's go ahead and
There you go.
remove. Let's go ahead and remove that, and we'll.
No, I don't think
No,
there was
not
any
that one.
nudity, but
But it could have been. You
It-
get those.
it's the
trailers
trailer.
from back in the
Yeah.
day.
yeah, that's what I got. Where I was like, oh, we can't show that. But like the guy, he has an assistant. It's kind of like an Igor. He calls him Nagi, and the prom queen gets killed in a motorcycle crash, and she gets decapitated, but she gets buried in the cemetery, so she comes back to life, and the assistant Nagi keeps her head in a TV and talks to her. Like it's an out there movie, but it's about graveyard people who it's about that specific graveyard, and he falls in love with
And now
one
I'm
of
going to
the
have to
women
do
that
a
come back.
back to back and decide, did James rip that off? I thought the say the line James was silly enough. Need to hear that one more time before we sign off.
for free, but it got to the point where I no longer had time to do it.
Say the line, Bart.
I just don't have the time.
This was a heavy time mentioning chapter compared to where we've been before. That's become a meme that I don't have enough time. So you've handled that one wrong, James, because every time you say the word time, I laugh at you.
No time.
There was
Yeah, and-
time now.
he-
There was finally time.
Yes. Oh, that's from the Twilight Zone, right? Where you could read all the books.
The Burgess Meredith. The other Burgess Meredith is my favorite all-time Twilight Zone episode, The Obsolete Man. But there was time now. That is absolutely ripe for parody, starring James Rolfe.
Good deal. Ooh. Yeah. No. He goes back to see it, and he's like so profound that he got there on the day that they were taking it down. It was like it played out so cinematically. It was like he that's what he said. There's no way he could have known that they were going to be renovating the park on that day. And I said to myself, this guy's a fucking idiot, because if you call Parks and Rec, I'm sure they have a schedule of when they're going to be demoing the park and getting rid of all that. If he wasn't
what
in the
about those
community, so
film
that he didn't hear
permits?
about it. Right.
Yeah. Call up Parks and Rec. Hey, can I pay you guys $50 to film without shutting it down?
And that's basically what he did when he got to the park. He shouted at the jackhammer guy, "Let me film my dragon." And the guy said, "All right." You know.
I pictured it very much like Scruffy, very just not into it. Like, yeah, whatever, go for
Or
it.
or the construction guy. Don't get me started. You know, he's like,
Oh, the guys who always
Whoa.
he pluralizes everything that he doesn't need to pluralize it.
And it gets worse every season too. It's like there's more S's on the words as you get to like season 4 or 5 and 6. But like he's making it sound like it's such a coincidence. Like it has to be a cosmic eldritch fucking force directing me, and it's not, dude. You just got lucky. You got lucky. It could have had a flat tire and he would have missed it all, but he didn't. It just happened to work out for him, and this is why I think he has this like, I'm the star of my own movie. I got destiny in my mind, and it all just went and leveled out. It just leveled out.
So, James, you have made us less fans by the end of this chapter. I don't know how many episodes we've got left in us. These next two might be wrapped up in a single one rather than 2 episodes. I'm hoping. I think we've only got 2 episodes in us. Maybe we've got 4. Probably 3. That's what I'm guessing. Maybe 3 more episodes. We'll see how we get along in this next chapter where we get to hear about the movie.
Yeah.
The thing that killed his passion.
So, and it makes sense now, you know, like reading up to it, like he's been on this destined path for many, many years, and he has the right amount of people feeding into it. I think Kyle Justin was one of the ones who was trying to make him a little more regular. But I think
Kyle
Mike
Justin,
and Bootsy,
he was the one with the fiber trying to make him more regular.
Exactly. And I think
can't
Kyle
help
and
get a
Bootsy
poop
just
joke
enjoyed.
when I hear one.
Just they were just being friends with them, you know, drinking. And there's a couple of videos where James does kind of act up like he was doing descriptively earlier in the book, when he would just be like shit soup and start talking all this weird stuff. I think that's why they were like, we got to keep this guy around. I think that Mike and Bootsy were like, we're going to do something, because they all like video games so much. I thought they did think they were going to go somewhere, and James was the character catalyst to funnel their creativity as well.
It's also making us like James less, the fact that we see how much Kyle Justin had to do with his success, and the fact that he's not around anymore. I really want to know why he's not around anymore, and I have a feeling we're not going to get those answers in the next 2 chapters.
With him, I think he was probably one of the guys that left amicably. He's like, I just did the theme song. I appeared in an episode here or there. It was the Akari Warriors episode, I think, where him.
True. We don't hear as much drama surrounding Kyle Justin, so it might have been more of like, I'm done. I'm tapping out. Whereas we know that there's been drippages of drama surrounding Bootsy and Mike's exit. So, yeah, you might actually be right there. Maybe there isn't a big blow up that made Kyle leave. As we know, there was something, it appears to be monetary, of why Mike and Bootsy, but I would like those answers. I don't think we're going to get them.
Mike put out a Reddit post, and
that's what I'm thinking of. He pretty much said, I could have handled it better, and it was monetary.
Yeah, Mike actually kind of, despite motherfucker Mike and his reputation for being Brown Bricks and Inspector Gadget and all that stuff, he was very level-headed and well-toned with his response to that. And he was trying not to blame himself or Bootsy.
No cockpick this time, so that was very appreciated, Mr.
Mike
McKay.
and his 10-incher. Yeah. And then Bootsy made a response to Mike's post and said that Mike was being slightly disingenuous. I got paid for editing, I got paid for writing, I got paid for this, that, and the other, but I didn't get paid for specific things like DVD sales, or if there was any other merch, he didn't get a cut of it. Like if it said Bootsy Loves Games t-shirt in the store, he didn't get any of that. So I think it was, and Mike kind of said it. He's like, you don't do business with your friends like that. Like, and we see Aaron figuring it out. Unless you're meeting and making a friend in that business, it's kind of rough to have a lifelong friend next to you all the time. And they were friends since college, 18, 19 years old. Now it's 20 years later. They got sick of each other, and there was other businesses. He does mention, we forgot, he does mention Big Ryan. Mike's going to make him a star, and they had no business acumen, none of them. And then they met Big Ryan, and Big Ryan he's the business head of it all.
I don't think there was much context to Big Ryan. The same with, what was it, Craig from the Screen Wave, Screen Rant?
Screw Attack.
Screw Attack. Craig from Screw Attack was just very clumsily inserted. And same with Big Ryan. He wasn't really explained. He was just kind of mentioned in passing so far.
Exactly.
So,
and both of those guys, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think I was about trailing off. That's all I have for this episode. James, thank you for making this a little less painful. It wasn't as painful as the past two chapters that we handled.
It was the first part of this chapter where I really started to hit that wall. It got better as it went on. It did start to move a little more, but it was just so much of the same thing in the beginning of that book. He's an emotional wreck. He doesn't fit in. He wants to be a filmmaker, and everything around him.
The description of red, green, and yellow days at special ed school still has me giggling for how unnecessary that was, and just so many hurdles to get to get to this point of like, all right, so it was 20 episodes, you didn't even get a dime, and then that's what was going on. Hopefully we have some fascinating tidbits about the movie. I wanted Mission of him regretting it. I don't think we're gonna get that. James mentioned the only painful thing he'll mention, getting expelled from. I think anything else painful, he's been talking around.
Yeah, a lot of that. I noticed that he is talking. We said that earlier about when he was working with his Captain Commando boss. There was some things I know he was talking around, and that could
have been a lot more fun. I would have liked the book, as I mentioned earlier, to focus on that time of his life for a much bigger chunk, and really getting details about this maniac that we got such a small little taste. This maniac almost accidentally smushed me between two cars, and everything else was just a small little illusion, a nod to sketchy things happened.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he left out a big juicy chunk right there of why everybody was going to walk out. Either they weren't getting paid, or he was cutting hours, or doubling hours. Who knows? But we're finally made it to chapter 5. Yeah, exactly. Where he finally starts talking about the movie. There's an hour and a half, I think, left.
It's been very encouraging to see the audio go down as I'm editing clips, because it felt like we were getting nowhere there for a while. And yeah, we are down to like 2 hours, 90 minutes. And I'm happy to be almost done with this book. It seemed like a great idea. But let's get to plugs. I'm ready to be done talking about James this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks for some more James. I kind of want to get more a movie angle. I'm going to come back tomorrow with a public domain theater. So I'll send that link out to Spurg Snake and a few other people who may be interested on riffing on some public domain movies. And hopefully it stays up this time, because no one owns it, YouTube.
Yeah, I know. Screw them. They're in their rules. I did send you a trailer of The Thing with Two Heads. That's a watch along for somewhere else, probably in Discord or something one night, because that movie looks ridiculous. And I know it's not in public domain, but it just looks too funny to not watch.
Yeah, but
Remu showed it to me the other day.
Maybe with our buddy 2K over on Rumble. But not on YouTube. Can't watch those things. And over on your channel, Monday nights is the new night. It hasn't gotten super populated like Sunday was. So Family Feud and other games on Monday with Spurg Snake's Secret Stash.
Right. Yep. At Spurg Snake on Twitter and at Spurg Snake on YouTube. So if you just type that in there, you should be able to find it. I'm kind of laying off the music. I got a couple of playlists I want to still do. Like I did this Oingo Boingo one, and they stopped me halfway, and so I started up a second stream and played the other songs that I wanted to play, and then that one got blocked worldwide. So it's just a pain in the butt. Maybe just Rumble for music. And I think I might start playing Fortnite on a weekday night somewhere. Another weekday,
right.
maybe Thursday or Friday.
The kids love the Fortnite, so maybe you'll pick up some viewers just scrolling around. I love XCOM 2, but there's not a fucking person looking to watch any XCOM 2 gameplay, so I gave that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I understand. And some games just don't keep up with my potato PC, so I can't play anything too demanding. That's why Switch games are fine, and low-end PC games, or games that run okay on this one anyway.
That's
but what about you? Anything coming up?
That's some of the shenanigans we've got going on here next week. I don't know what I'm doing. I've mentioned the movie show I'd like to do. Got to figure out the clips with live. So yeah, I think I'll be getting away from some of the social media madness and onto some shitty movie madness in the coming months as I take a shift on this channel. Thank you all for joining. Oh yes, of course, Hindsight Rewrite. That's one of the things that'll be the finale of this channel's James Rolfe arc, is a Hindsight Rewrite on his movie. And Stuttering John, definitely want to do one on him. And yeah, trying some different stuff on this channel. Thanks for checking us out. Thank you for joining today. Now feel free to go away.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.
Places all. All join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right to your honey with the right and left date. Grand right and left around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girls. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LS, MFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.